Hello everyone. Today's History Bites is a little different than what we typically do. It was actually recorded yesterday due to scheduling. And so you'll be welcome to ask questions in the chat and we will answer what we can. If we can't answer it, we will get back to you as soon as we can, but they will not be asked live. I just wanted to give that as a heads up. I hope you enjoy this fun virtual tour of the Monteith House.
Welcome everyone to the Albany Regional Museum's Virtual History Bites. I am Keith Losey, Executive Director, and I am here with Patty Evans, who is the President of the Monteith Historical Society. We're doing something a little fun today. We're actually out on location to record our virtual tour of the Monteith House. And Patty, why are we going and doing a tour on site? What are we getting ready for?
We're getting ready for a reopening. We're hoping on October 15th, that's coming up this Thursday, I think, to open up for appointments. And so we want to give people a little taste of what it's like to come and tour the Monteith House.
Well, that is exciting. I am ready to go on this tour. Thank you for having us out. I think I'm ready to go ahead, pass it off, and get the tour going.
Very good. Well, welcome to the Monteith House, everybody. This is one of Albany's precious treasures. So grateful that the city had the foresight to buy this property, to buy this house just before it was needing to be demolished back in the 1970s, and instead restored it to its pioneer glory. Took it right back to its original walls and floors, and it is one of the state's most accurately rendered pioneer homes. And it was built by Thomas and Walter Monteith, who were brothers, and their friend Sam Althouse, who had come across the Oregon Trail in 1847 on Tom Cox's wagon train. They drove the freight wagons there, came over here for the sole purpose of establishing a town. And so before there was an Albany, they had to put down a house to claim this land. And so before there was an Albany, there was the Monteith House, built in 1849 by these three bachelors. And so we're going to go in and take a look at it.
Yeah.
Tour starts off in this room, which if you were here, you would be able to see right away. It's very different from the other rooms in the house. These walls are not covered in muslin and wallpaper. They're just boards, horizontal. And that is because this was the original cabin that held that land claim. Before the rest of the house had been built, there was this part of the house. The floors we are standing on are original floorboards, and underneath us are original timbers that this house rests upon. It's really neat to be in this room, I think. There's a real sense of history in here. The Monteith brothers, as I said, were bachelors. Nobody said to them that they weren't supposed to be putting in a store in their living room. And so that cabin became the first general store in Albany. And it helped to supply the settlers that were coming across the Oregon Trail. And also it helped supply the 1,000-some white settlers who had settled into what we call Lynn County and were mostly wheat farmers. And they needed all the supplies that you see in this room that were largely shipped up or freighted up here from San Francisco. And you'll see a little bit of everything that was needed in those days, from candle making equipment to tobacco cutters to beans and rice and calico and coffee and square nails and handmade soap. And if you have an elementary age child who maybe has toured the Monteith House, to hear about the history of Oregon, they might be able to tell you what this interesting block of stuff is. It's heavy. It's got Chinese writing on it. And this was something that was used every day in many pioneer homes. And I'm just going to let you try to figure out what it is. And next time you come in the Monteith House, you can take a good look at it and see what you think it is. It's one of the many artifacts we have in this house that are just so much fun to see and really get a feel for what it was like to live in the mid-19th century. We have in this house like the big hay rakes, the wheat that would have gathered up the hay in the fields. You even see shoemaking equipment here, and nuts and butter churns and yokes and wagon bows. And over on one of our walls, we actually have Thomas Monteith's bullwhip that he used on the Oregon Trail. Some very interesting things in this room. When you come to visit us, you can look at it all. We go into this room. This is the parlor. Very soon after the first cabin room was built, they added on to the rest of the house, and we have the parlor. And, you know, Thomas and Walter never had any sense that they were going to remain bachelors all their days. They expected that they would find wives and have families. On the way out over the Oregon Trail, Thomas had met a young woman by the name of Christine Dunbar in Iowa, and they fell in love, and they were ready to be married. But her father, unreasonably or reasonably, would not allow his 15-year-old daughter to go with 3 bachelors over the Oregon Trail to the wilderness, and said, you go out there and you build the house, you set up your town, and then you can come back and marry her if she still is willing. And I'm sure he expected that that was never going to happen. But in 1854, that's exactly what he did. Thomas and Sam went back over the Oregon Trail. Thomas married Christine. They went on honeymoon in New York City. And when they were there, they bought furniture for this house. And they put it on a ship, and it went around the Horn of South America and found its way back up here. And much of the furniture in this room and some of it upstairs is that original furniture that went around the Horn of South America to come here. It's in beautiful condition, and it's just a delight to have in the house again and to see. And so come and take a look at it. We have pictures of Thomas and Christine on the wall here, overlooking their parlor. This parlor was important not just in Albany history, but also in Oregon history. The Abraham Lincoln's Republican Party in Oregon was founded in this parlor, as well as early statehood meetings were held here. 4 of the churches in town were established in worship services held in this parlor. So you can see it's a very important part of the history of the area. Thomas Monteith is pictured here, and a picture on the mantle. He is a part of the Oregon militia. He was a lieutenant colonel, and he's here in his dress uniform with his dress sword. And the sword in this picture is the same one that is above the fireplace. Another treasure that we're delighted to have and take care of here. And in this room are all sorts of things for you to see and enjoy. We have pioneer dishes as well as a stereopticon, you know, one of those that you put a picture in and you slide it, and it brings the 2 pictures together to make it have a 3D effect. We have some stereopticon pictures. Give it a little more light. And some of Christine's favorite pieces of glass, and a pair of glasses over here. I don't think I have pointed these out yet. Little tiny reading glasses. Both Thomas and Christine were avid letter writers, and so those glasses, I'm sure, came in really handy in dim lighting of evenings. So let's go into the kitchen. Here here we have what I think is probably the heart of the pioneer household. This is where the family would have gathered for meals, of course, and children would have been schooled at this table. And guests would have sat down for tea in here probably as well, and lots of activity in and out the back door to the gardens and to the fruit trees that would have been out back, and the well that would have been there eventually. And so a very busy place. This fireplace would have been where most of the meals were cooked, over the flames of the fireplace. Christine did get a cook stove at one point, but in the earliest days, even bread would have been baked in this fireplace, as well as cakes and pies and biscuits. Everything would have been baked in a fireplace like that. And then this over here we call a dry sink, because there was no running water in the house, of course, no inside plumbing. So this is called a burden, and this was some chores that the children would put it around their necks, and there would have been pails on either end, and they would have gone down to the river to scoop up water and bring it up, or eventually they'd have a well at back and they could get their water there, filling up this barrel, which held about 25 gallons. And a family could have made do with that amount of water for a whole day. Today we use that much in one short shower and a flush of the toilet, so things are very different. In the dry sink, it was a really great way to be conserving water. This is a soap Swiss. Little pieces of handmade soap are in there. They'd pour the hot scalding water from the fireplace in here, stir up some suds, wash the dishes, put them over here, take the scalding water and sanitize them, put them up on the drying rack. And then the water, of course, here would be used in the garden, or maybe even to wash some household items as well. They wouldn't waste not even a drop. And this little gizmo here is a pioneer scrub brush. Little twigs all bound up together. It's amazing how they made everything functional. It never wasted a thing. We have a lot of interesting artifacts that you'll have to come and see about. Things like this, which I'm not going to tell you what it is because you're going to come and see. Has to do with butter, though, making and pressing butter. And over here on the wall, this is, again, if your child has come through here on a school tour, they can tell you what this is. But it's really important. If you want Sunday dinner, you want to have one of these, because you're going to get the best part of the Sunday dinner using this implement. So come and find out what that is. And then we have other items. This is a multi-purpose cauldron here, in which we would have washed kids and clothes, made soap, and cooked stew. Everything happened in a big cauldron like that. And a paddle like this would have been used for all of those functions. This is a Victorian vacuum cleaner, also known as a rug beater, and a hand-hewn washboard. They would have churned their own butter, of course, and we have a couple churns there. And we use these churns when we have living history events. And we've got a lot of kids pass through this house that have made butter using those. And eating it on biscuits that are made in the fireplace. This is called a kneading table. There would have been flour and sugar and salt in here. And the cook would have pulled this lid down and made and kneaded the bread on the top, then taken the biscuits or the pie and placed them underneath, put this lid down, it would have been a proving shelf, and then did another batch on top again. It's a nice functional way to keep things revolving. And one last thing that I'm going to show you that you can come in and hear about is this little interesting baby bottle. Take a look. It's got a groove in the side and a cord is strung through. Come and find out why pioneers did this. And I would guess most parents of newborns will be able to guess why that cord is there. Let's go upstairs. I like to look at this wall as we come up. It has plexiglass on it, and that's to protect the original wallpaper and muslin that is behind it. In the 70s, when the house was restored, they took it down to its original walls and floors. And so what you're seeing here is the 16-foot lumber stretches from ceiling to the floor down below, and is beautiful wood still after all of these years. It was cut down from Jefferson area and hand hewn for the house, and then covered in the muslin. We have the muslin here. It's very stained, but that's the original muslin that covered the walls to help insulate the house, keep the wind and bugs away. And then by the time Christine and Thomas were calling this their own home, of course, Christine was going to want some wallpaper. And so it's fun to look at this wall and try and guess which was her first wallpaper that went up. Was it kind of the stripe pattern with the beige on it, or was it the blue flower? Sometimes I think it's the blue, and then other times it looks like that stripe is on top. But in any case, we know we're looking at the earliest wallpaper there. In Victorian days, they really liked organic themes of flowers and leaves and vegetation, and sometimes even birds and animals. By the turn of the century, when this pattern that you see on top was put on, you can see the effects of the Industrial Revolution, where organic themes are giving way to geometric themes of gears and wheels and things other than organics, and kind of a little bit of both in there. We're going to go into this little room, which is one of my favorite rooms. The kitchen in this room are how they were in 1849 when the bachelors were here. So you see no wallpaper, just muslin. Clothes get put on the walls because there's no fancy wardrobes or closets. And most of the furniture is just things that came over the Oregon Trail, like the trunk, or a bed like this that would have been made out of lumber here in the area. This bed is a typical pioneer rope bed. The mattress would have been ticked first with hay or straw, later with goose down, chicken feathers, and it's sitting on a rope mattress, a rope frame. And actually this bed is where we get the saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, because you had to pull these tight or else this rope would stretch out and you'd find your tail end on the ground somewhere in the middle of the night. And when it was time to hit the hay, you literally wanted to hit the hay because there would have been pokey things sticking up and bugs crawling up, and you want to knock them to the bottom of the mattress as best you can. And of course, the quilts would have been pieces of clothing, worn out things that we saved, pieced together, so we have a nice warm comforter on the bed. Of course, no indoor plumbing except for a chamber pot under each bed that the children would have been responsible for emptying. And I always like to ask the children, which of the children in the family do you think would empty it, the youngest or the oldest? Depending on who they are and their families, what answer comes up. My guess, it was probably the one that could get down the stairs with the pot without spilling it. The other part of the bathroom in here is the pitcher and bowl, which was for face washing and hair straightening. And there's a horsehair toothbrush to probably serve most of the kids, and a little lye soap made from hog fat renderings and some ashes from the fireplace, which makes good old-fashioned caustic lye soap. And in the Oregon Trail trunk, we have some items of beautiful children's clothing, little pioneer dresses, and tiny little shoes. And the best way to see them is to come to the house so you can get up close and personal with them and see how wonderful they are. We'll move on down the hall. And as we do, we're going to have some pictures of the older Monteith brother. This is Walter and his wife, Margaret Smith. And they built this house. And sadly, Walter never was able to live in it because he died just before it was ready to be open. but Margaret raised her children in this big house, which sadly is no longer standing. But it was a beautiful Italianate architectural home. I want to just take a quick look in this room. This was another of the bedrooms, but we have a number of pieces of furniture and artifacts that we're not quite sure what's the best place for them. They were certainly used by the Monteith family, and so we have them collected, and you get a little bit of history here that you wouldn't see otherwise. For example, the Monteiths were staunch supporters of Abraham Lincoln, and some of the land deeds that we have around the house have Abraham Lincoln's signature on them. This is a Civil War drum over here that was a nephew of the Monteiths. He was in the Civil War and part of the drum corps. He used that drum. When he got promoted to clerk, he sent it home saying, "This is a good drum, take good care of it." Sadly, he didn't come home from the war, but that drum was used in the community band for many years. We have a variety of things in this room to come and see. A replica of Thomas's uniform, his camp chair, some activities in the community that they sponsored. We had a wonderful balcony out here that as you come by, you can see from the outside is a very nice big balcony. And in the days of the general store being here, they would have put some of their farming implements here to kind of advertise them. And then in a nice warm summer evening, this would be a perfect place to bring the rocking chairs and a glass of lemonade and sit out in the breeze from the river on the balcony there. And now we'll go into this room. This great big room is Thomas and Christine's bedroom, the master bedroom of the house. In the earliest days when the bachelors lived here, the McConnell family lived in this room, and there was 5 of them. And so you can, well, was not that big a room for 5 people. That's a very big room for a couple. But I bet a whole lot of living went on in this room. We know at least 4 of the Monteith children were born in this room, in this house, and likely in a bed like this, or maybe even this bed. We're not absolutely sure. But we do know that many of these pieces of furniture are Monteith pieces. The Monteith rocker, Christine's dress. We have some shoes and some hat and fan and gloves, all of these very personal items of Christine's, as well as her dressing gown here. And on the bed there is a Monteith children's doll. And some of the kids who come through the house say that she looks kind of creepy to them. And I always say, well, if you were 170 years old, you'd look creepy too. She's pretty old. She looks pretty good, I think. But you'll have to come and look at some of the pictures we have on the wall. Family pictures with children, and Margaret and Martha, and Christine. And Minnie Monteith up here has a great story that goes with that picture, ones I'd love to tell you. And then, maybe just as a little teaser, we have this little door here into a crawl space. And this door is one that the children always ask about. What is that door for? So if your elementary age child has been in the house, they can tell you about it. But it is very central in some of the ghost stories that we tell in this house at this time of year, and which, if you come for a tour this month, I'll tell you the stories that go along with this door. And so I look forward to doing that if you make an appointment. But there's so much to see. Old pedal sewing machine and a darning egg, and just too much to describe in this virtual visit, but plenty to see, and we'd be happy to answer your questions about that. So we thank you for coming to the house. We are going to try to open up on the 15th, call the Albany Visitors Association to get an appointment. We're taking appointments for sheltering groups of 10 or less that can go on the tour. And it's free. We will take your donation gladly, but it is a free tour. We'll include stories, ghost stories at the house, as well as just the history of the house. And then the other thing we have going on that you might want to check into by going to our website, monteithhouse.org, is instead of this year's Trolley of Terror, which we've done for many years, we're going to have 3 nights of ghost walks. And again, we'll take groups of 10 or less on tours of the historic district and this house with lanterns. So you have to be able to walk about 1.5 miles in the dark, but we'll tell you some great stories of this old town and this old historic district and this old house. So again, contact ABA for an appointment to do that, or go on our website and we'll help you do that. So that's a little bit of the Monteith House. We hope that you'll come and join us and see more and enjoy this treasure of Albany.
Thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
We have just finished up the tour of the Monteith House. It was wonderful. Thank you, Patty, for that. And so I wanted to cover a couple of things. We're not able to do questions. I'm not able to take the questions from Facebook like we normally do, since we actually pre-recorded this as it worked out best for scheduling. But some things that I wanted to touch on. So is there any fee to come and see the Monteith House, just in general?
No, there isn't. We do ask for a $3 donation, but it's a free tour. So we just want people to come. I do have to say, though, that any donations would be really appreciated, because we did have to cut all of our fundraising this year because of COVID. And so, you know, if more of a donation can be given, it just helps to preserve this house more. And our website also has a donation button.
So if people wanted to come and visit, where are you located?
We are at 518 Southwest 2nd Street. So we're right
Street.
across from the post office.
Yeah, we'll
It's right
swing.
there. We're right across the street.
Look at that wonderful post office. And
Yep.
just on the other side, you can kind of see the carousel.
And usually, if the gate is open, it means somebody is here, and you can always come and knock on the door if that gate is open, and somebody might be able to give you a tour.
Okay. And are you doing tours on specific days that are offered?
No, we're not. We're just taking appointments.
Just
and
appointments.
Then we'll be here for those appointments.
Okay. And then you can make an appointment for any day?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much.
And then what day, you mentioned the haunted walking tours,
Uh-huh.
which I think is fantastic. And that is one group at a time. So
Yes.
they pay $10 and they can bring up to 10 people. And it's just their grouping, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, they can be together and not worry about how close they are to each
Yeah.
other.
So you can come and have a very exclusive private tour. What days were those again?
It's Friday and Saturday, October 23rd and 24th, and then Friday, October 30th. And we have tours starting at 7, 7:15, 7:30, and 7:45. And they're about 45 to 55 minutes long, and we'll leave right on time. So be sure if you have an appointment, you get here a little bit before, so you're ready to go.
Fantastic. And so we've got a bit of the history of the Monteith House, and we heard about the Monteith brothers, but we didn't hear a lot about your organization. How long have you been in operation?
Oh goodness, I think that Monteith Historical Society got started fairly close after the house was getting ready to be restored. So early 70s is when it got started, and this society has been taking care of this house along with the city of Albany for all of these years, making sure it stays clean and repaired, watching over the collection, leading tours. We bring through upwards to 800, 900 school children through this house every year, as well as tourists out of the area and people who've lived here all their lives and just now found out about the Monteith House. We really have thousands of people come through the house each year, and Monteith Historical Society organizes and tracks all of that.
And we certainly want to keep that up. So please come out, donate if you can, go on the haunted walks, or volunteer. I imagine you have volunteer opportunities, right?
We really do. We would love to have people who like to tell stories, love history, would just like to come and work in the yard or maybe wash windows at the house. We have everything from simple poster making to learning full scripts to do tours, and we can find a place for everybody's gift if they'd like to share it with us. And just you can contact us through monteithhouse.org. We'd be happy to hear from you. Also, I do want to say we are so appreciative of the Albany Visitors Association because they help us track all of this as well. They're a good resource for us for finding out more information. So give them a call if we have an answer to your questions.
Patty, thank you for the wonderful tour. And I think that is all my questions. If we get any comments on Facebook, is it okay if I forward them to you so we can get them answered for everybody?
I'll do my best.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for this unique History Bites, and we will see you next month.